Hi everyone. My name is Irina and I'm Russian. And I hate being Russian right now. People have been told me that I don't need to feel sorry or be ashamed of my nation. I've also been told that I'm a disgrace and a traitor for what I'm doing and saying here. People have asked me, where have I been 8 years? Since 2014. But do people need to be reminded what happened in 2014? Who has invaded Ukraine? Who has unlawfully annexed Crimea and then sent their troops to Ukrainian Donetsk and Lugansk? Has everyone suddenly get amnesia? I've been asked why USA can do Iraq and Afghanistan, etc., and Russia cannot. Since when has this turned into a competition who kills more innocent people? I've been told that Putin has been provoked by West and NATO. Are you out of your mind? How can you be provoked into slaughtering thousands of innocent people? How can you give your army an order to go and torture, rape, slaughter innocent civilians under the pretense of denazification? What the hell even is that? Can somebody tell me what denazification is? Thought so. I've been asked if I want the same thing that what happened in Ukraine in 2014 in Russia, when Putin's puppet Yanukovych was thrown out of the office by a national uprising. Well, as a matter of fact, I do. I want to see the president that has been elected legitimately, not this criminal, who I cannot even call my president because in 22 years I never voted for him. Putin is a criminal and a murderer. He murdered Boris Nemtsov in 2015. He attempted to murder Alexei Navalny in 2020 and then locked him up in jail, all because he tried to tell the truth about the crimes Vladimir Putin committed. He succeeded in killing Alexander Litvinenko, and he almost succeeded in murdering Sergei and Yulia Skripal in Salisbury. Now, from what I understand, some people believe that this has been done by British intelligence. If you really think that, you need to think again. Because you do not understand Vladimir Putin and what sort of politics he represents. Vladimir Putin has openly been saying for 20 years that Ukraine is not a real nation, that Ukraine should be a part of Russia. Did NATO make him say that? What I want for Russia is, first of all, legitimate elections. I want political prisoners to be freed, and I want to see real opposition in Kremlin, not clowns like LDPR and KPRF. I want freedom of speech. I want Russia to be the country that people will want to live in. I want to be able to come back to this country without fearing for being arrested. I want to see public repentance. I want our future legitimately elected president to go to Bucha or Mariupol and drop on their knees and apologize. Then and only then, Russian nation may have a chance to redeem itself. Until then, we will be hated, and we damn well deserve it. Slava Ukraini! Thank you, Irina. I am next very pleased.
Thank you so much, Vicky, and it's such an honour and a privilege to follow on from Irina, a friend and comrade from Nttm. Comrades, the situation in Ukraine is even more desperate than we can imagine. In Bucha and Irpin, people have been massacred. People have been shot for delivering aid, shot while salvaging food from a shop, shot in front of their children. Yesterday at Kramatorsk train station, 4,000 people were waiting to be evacuated. Families fleeing the fighting, civilians just trying to reach safety now that their home has become a living hell. The Russian military attacked them with missiles, killing 50 people, 5 of them children. Schools, universities and nurseries have been destroyed. Rape has been used as a weapon. Let's be clear, Putin has committed war crimes and we must unequivocally condemn his regime in the strongest possible terms. We're here today to tell the people of Ukraine that the Labour movement stands with them against Putin's unprovoked war. We stand with them in their struggle for democracy, for self-determination, to live their lives in peace. We're also here today to support Russians who are protesting against the war. They're risking jail and persecution for their actions, but they will go down in history as heroes. And we're also here today to hold our own government to account. Because since the start of Putin's invasion, our government has loudly proclaimed solidarity with Ukraine. But we must remember that this Tory government for years has been happy to take millions in donations from Russian oligarchs. That this Tory government has been happy to buy fossil fuels from dictators. And that although it claims to value democracy and human rights, these values only matter to them when it suits their agenda. But there is one particular aspect that this government should be particularly ashamed of, and that's its treatment of refugees. Home Office red tape has prevented people from reaching their loved ones, from reaching safety. It's forced people to wait weeks and weeks to seek refuge. And it's about time that this government did more than just waving flags and waived visas as well. That's what refugees welcome! Instead, our government has cited so-called security concerns and says that people are even pretending to be Ukrainian to get into the UK. Shame on them!
Shame on government!
On them! Ukrainians are just like us when it suits their objective, and they're a threat to be managed when it doesn't. Well, Ukrainians are just like us, but not because of blue eyes or blonde hair or Netflix accounts or because they're European. They're just like us because they are human beings.
Hear, hear.
So
Hear,
are
hear.
Afghans just like us. So are Syrians just like us.
Hear,
So
hear.
are Eritreans and Palestinians just like us. Because all that separates us from them is luck. So we demand that refugees are welcome here. Refugees from Ukraine, refugees from around the world, they all deserve safety. Comrades, once the headlines have moved on and once our government has lost interest, and it will, we must commit to standing in solidarity with the Ukrainian people for the long haul. Because I know that no matter how long it takes, weeks, months, years even, Putin will lose this war. The Ukrainian people will not give up until they are free. And as a Labour movement, we must stand with them every step of the way, ready to help them rebuild their country, free from the monumental debts forced on them by banks, to rebuild their democracy and to rebuild their lives. Solidarity with the people of Ukraine. Slava Ukraine!
Slava Ukraine!
Thank you, Nadia. Our next speaker.
And NUJ member, hello. Be proud of yourselves. We might be a small crowd here on a slow afternoon on Whitehall, but the unions represented on this demonstration represent more than 2 million people. The official support of more than 2 million workers goes right out, right now, to Ukrainian people. Be proud of yourself as well, to our Russian comrade, to the Kurdish Antifa comrades who are here somewhere, to the comrades from Hong Kong, from the democracy movement. Because what we've all got in common is what we all know, is what so many of our fellow workers and workmates and friends don't yet understand, is how bad the future is going to be if totalitarians like Putin and Lukashenko and Xi Jinping and Erdogan rule the world. Now, yesterday, as Nadia said, in Kramatorsk, 50 people were killed, at least 300 injured by a cluster bomb dropped on a crowd of what we call civilians. Journalists, we reach for words to describe the victims, and civilian is the most common one we hear. But it's not enough. It's not accurate enough, because as you look at the discarded trainers and shoes and Wellingtons and little toys and battered suitcases and anoraks, there is another word.
Human.
Worker. So many of the victims of this war are working class Ukrainians. Why? Because Ukraine, demographically, is a country heavily full of working class people because of its history of collectivization, of mass industrialization. One Ukrainian expert said to me, look, really, it's just workers, farmers and oligarchs, and the oligarchs legged it before the war started, many of them. So the victims of this war are workers. We know that in the labour movement. And because of that, so many of us, our instinct when we see an armed conflict is to demand peace. It's natural. Only we, the working class, we always pay the price of war, however it starts, whatever it's about. But when we visited with Chris and others, the miners and railway workers in Kiev 2 days before the war started, they told us of a different rationale. The miners in Donbass, which is being fought over now, when the Russian separatists took those areas, they asset stripped the mines, closed the mines down, banned the trade union, kidnapped the activists, tortured the activists, and then killed the activists. And that's why, on the morning the troops rolled into the Donbass the next time, those miners who had already fled were ringing the Kiev HQ, saying, this time we don't run away. This time we'll get our guns. We are going to fight. And so, in a war like this, our natural demand for peace, our natural fear of military action, has to take second place to the right of working class people to defend what they have. Many of these workers, they do not support Zelensky. Zelensky's party is a bit like Macron's party. It's a fiction. It's made up of technocrats and bureaucrats and a few oligarchs. The workers don't support that party. But what they say is, look, on the Ukrainian side, you can have a union. On the Russian side, not only can you not have a union, but we met people who spent 8 years dealing with the human rights aftermath of the seizure of Donbass. Rape as a weapon of war, torture, people with their eyes gouged out. This is what they told us, the story. People who've been working with those victims for years. Do you think anybody will work with the victims of rape and torture on the other side of the border when Putin settles or seizes the rest of Donbass? No, there will be no help. And for that reason, it is in the interest of working class people to support Ukraine in this war. And I know how hard that is for many of us who've stood outside here in so many other wars and said, you know, screw your hypocrisy over Iraq and Afghanistan and the rest. It's hard. But the only way to get arms into the hands of the Ukrainian people right now, because we don't have them, we make them. We make them in factories all over Britain. But the only way to get them there is to keep the pressure on the government to get all the banks sanctioned properly, all the oligarchs sanctioned properly. It's a beautiful day. I've no doubt Boris Johnson is playing tennis. Let's hope it's not with a Russian oligarch. But keep the pressure on them, keep the pressure on our own movement, and do one final thing. Push back against the pressure inside the labour movement that comes from voices that I'm afraid to say have drunk the Kool-Aid of Putin is right. I'm sorry, there are such people, and such people, you know, they have a right to their opinion, but what they cannot do is prevent us standing in solidarity to the Ukrainian people. So Tanya Ruck's statement that was just read out, that they made another, and I just want to quote and finish with one thing from what they said this week. Very simple. This is a people's war. This war can transform Ukraine. And so we send them our solidarity. We say to them, comrades, keep going. We are with you. We are coming with aid. we are coming with as much as we can bring. But what we will do, the most important, is to keep the pressure on Whitehall and Westminster, because yes, there will be tough times. There'll be tough times. It's not necessarily that all the good news is going to carry on. So solidarity with the Ukrainian people, solidarity with Ukraine, solidarity with the Free Trade Union movement, and victory to the Ukrainian people in their struggle against this genocidal, pathological guy in the Kremlin. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. I'm going to